sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the spot!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Bittt.tb. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Monday, April 24th. It is a couple of minutes past 10 o'clock, and you're watching right now live on YouTube, live on Facebook, and live on Twitter. And you probably have one eye on me, and you probably have one eye on the game featuring the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Leafs are up by 2-1. There is about 4 minutes to go in period number 3 in this one, and Tampa Bay holding on to a 1-goal lead. They lead by a score of 4-3. So I too have one eye on the screen and one eye straight at you. Welcome. It's a Sick Podcast brought to you in part by La Bittt at Tibi, of course. La Bittt at Tibi, brewed in Quebec, a winner of a dozen international awards. La Bittt at Tibi offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. La Bittt at Tibi, embrace your true nature. And also brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. And I want to say hello to everyone at the Geloso Beverage Group, including my and especially my good buddy Aldo Geloso. Aldo, how are you? La Bittt at Tibi. Aldo distributes that all over. You can find it pretty much in grocery stores and everywhere throughout the province. And my buddies Mike Cinquino and Sean Gerard over at Energy Transportation Group. Gentlemen, we very much thank you for your support. Speaking of which, one guy who's been a big support to the podcast is Eric Engels of Sportsnet and Sportsnet.ca. What's going on, Mr. Engels?
What's up, Tony? Everything good?
Everything's very, very good. How you doing?
I'm good. I've been enjoying the playoff hockey as much as anybody. It's been pretty exciting to watch.
It really has been. And, I've said on more than one occasion that for what it's worth, I think there's too many games in the National Hockey League regular season. And that's not going to change because the National Hockey League is big business. I mean, I had this conversation with a buddy of mine. Who did I speak to a couple of days ago? And he was saying that I was speaking to a buddy of mine, my buddy Paulo, and he says to me, I said, Paulo, the Bruins are looking good. And I said, man, they're doing it without Patrice Bergeron, without David Krejci. And he said to me, he says, Tony, you know what? Well, I don't watch as much hockey as I used to. And he's just over 50. And obviously we do because we work in the biz. We got no other choice. If you don't watch the games, you're going to be exposed. He just said, as you get older, there's so many things going on. And I said, yeah. I said, Paulo, I said, look, in my world, right? Even though, this is what we do. Sports is our thing. But man, would it be convenient if the National Football League, for example, played on one day, which they do on Sundays, or maybe 2 days, which they do, during the week as well on Thursdays, or Monday Night Football or whatever. But let's just say the National Football League picked 2 days a week.
I have to interrupt you just because my face contorted as you were telling this story, and it's because I just saw the Leafs tie this game.
They tied it up. Wow. So you know what? You're ahead of me. And there we go. I just saw them tie it up right now. Wow. Look at that. Morgan Riley, who scored the game winner in game number 3, he ties the game at 4.
2 nights in a row, 2 Canadian teams are racing 3-goal deficits. We'll see where this one ends for Toronto.
They're going nuts at Leaf Square, right? They're going absolutely nuts at Leaf Square. Renaud Lavoie of TVA Sport earlier this evening on GC at TVA Sport Television, he pointed something out. Vasilevsky, prior to tonight's game, All 7 goals that beat them were blocker side. I repeat, prior to tonight's game, all 7 goals were blocker side. When it's 2, when it's 3 out of 7, when it's 4 out of 7, when it's 5 out of 7, when it's 6 out of 7, when it's 7 out of 7, you got to think there's a scouting report there and they saw something. You have to think. Now, I'm trying to go through the first 3 goals of the Toronto scored tonight, which right now everything's a little bit of a blank, but this goal that just went in right now, that one there's blocker side.
I don't know if there's anything to that. Like, I've never felt there was anything to that because I don't know of a goalie in the world whose strong side is their blocker side. Like,
I hear you.
That'll always be the weakness for pretty much any goalie unless they catch right-handed.
Yeah.
At which point it becomes a bit of a different story.
And Tavares is providing a screen. But early on, Eric, Vasilevsky, as with all Russian goalies, their glove usually is not at 100%. And I early on in his career, he put so much emphasis on trying to improve the glove. You're right. For the most part, the glove is a stronger side than the blocker side. Now you're ahead of me here, but there was a 2-on-1, which just became a 3-on-2. Alex Killorn just got stopped on a 3-on-2. He's got 2 goals in this hockey game. He's flying. This is the best hockey game I've seen Alex Killorn play in a long time.
He's been by far the best player on the ice for either team. But I'm surprised Tampa finds itself in this situation right now. And
I'm not.
How could you not be? Like, how could you not be? Them giving up a 3-goal lead in the third period is anti-Tampa. That is not the Lightning who we've known for the last number of years. They are wizards at basically closing out games like this. Regular season playoffs doesn't really matter what time of year. They typically get it done.
Yeah.
And I don't know how this one's going to turn out. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen yesterday. I knew that at 3-0 with the Oilers down that it would be foolish to count them out after one period, especially given what they can do and the talent level that they have. But even going into overtime, I still felt pretty confident that the Kings were going to win.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they didn't. And right now, like, I know people from Montreal are not going to like to hear it. The Leafs are different. This is a different Leafs team. Yes, a lot of the same components, but a lot of differences. And it's not just that guys like O'Reilly have come in. Like, if you go back to the beginning of this game, like Austin Matthews, the shot that he blocked, just certain things that have happened. Riley, the way the game that they lost in this series.
Yeah.
Morgan Riley was the worst player on the ice. I mean, he was brutal. Like, he had a brutal game. He was probably their best player last game, which is a pivotal game in the series. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know where this is going. I picked Toronto to win this series in 7 games.
Yeah.
And I felt that I think a lot of people would have looked at it and been like, if this goes to 7 games, they don't have a chance because of their history and the pressure. But I felt like that's kind of the way for them to get over the hump is to have that type of test in the first round and then really go. Right now, I'm not sure if they win this game and go up 3-1 back to Toronto.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, they have 1 win in their last 18 attempts when they're leading a series.
This year's going to be different. Eric, if they win tonight, they're closing it off Game 5 in Toronto. I'll give you, Eric, for what it's worth, I'll give you 2 predictions. If Tampa Bay wins tonight, this series is going 7. If Toronto wins tonight, it's over next game in Toronto. Toronto will close it off at home.
I'll say if Tampa wins tonight, all bets are off. And yes, I would agree it's going 7. And my initial prediction that Toronto will win could be wrong. Like, I was thinking about it last night about the Oilers. Like, if the Oilers come back from 3-0 down, and then down 4-3 in the third period, because holy shit, Tony, like, they claw their way back into the game last night.
Yeah.
And then the third period starts, they give up a 3-on-2, a 2-on-1, a goal, and then take a penalty all within the first 5 minutes and 2 seconds of the period. And I'm thinking, like, man, it's time this team, like, changed its brand. Like, like, how predictable is this that they do this? Like, I was thinking if they still manage to come back from 3-0 down and then 4-3 down in the third period and lose the game, how devastating that actually would have been. I think it would have been even more devastating than the Kings losing last night after having a 3-0 lead, because they just know, like, Edmonton can score. If Toronto mounts this comeback in this game and then they end up losing in some sort of devastating fashion again, who knows where this goes from here. But I agree with you. If they win and they go back to Toronto with a 3-1 series lead and the way this has gone, I like their chances. They have not been the better of the two teams, though, through the last two games. And they're lucky to be in this game, and they're lucky to have won the last one.
Yeah, I hear you, but
the fact that it went their way, like the fact that they actually pulled it off in those circumstances, that to me that's a different thing.
Nick Paul just missed a big chance with just over a minute to go in regulation. Tampa's pressing here in the final minute, but so far it's still tied at 4, and we're 50 seconds away from overtime, and you're probably ahead of me. We're going to talk Habs in just a second here, all right? Because Kent Hughes is at the U18 Worlds. He had a chance to speak with Brian Mudryk. They talked about Lane Hutson and the year that he had. Talked about some of the things where he's coming along with his game. Caden Primo says that he's ready for the National Hockey League. We're going to discuss whether or not it's going to be with the Montreal Canadiens. We're also going to discuss Jake Allen, whether or not he can battle for the number 1 job again, or whether or not he'll be a big brother. And there was an interesting piece in the Journal de Montréal, which I really, really liked. It's pretty cool. And it was finding the ideal line mate for Suzuki and Caulfield. So we'll get to that. I just want to finish off with this regarding the Lightning and the Leafs. And I'm going to say it because I don't know. I have a feeling that I'm not the only one who's feeling this way and going through what I'm going through. What am I talking about? I'm talking about, and I know even though many Montreal Canadiens fans would like nothing more than to see Toronto lose. You talked about the fact that Toronto's different this year, and I'm going to talk to you about something. I don't know if I've ever gone through a roller coaster of emotions more so than I have in this series right now between Tampa Bay and Toronto. Part of me wants Toronto to lose because it's just funny watching them lose all the time, right? It gives us something to joke about with Toronto Maple Leafs fans. It gives us something to ridicule the Maple Leafs fans. It gives us something to say about the city of Toronto because there's not much else we can say. They've found a way to lose in the first round so many times that it's almost comical. And if they would do it again, it would be really, really funny. Another part of me is watching the fans at Leaf Square, and it's so cool to see them so ecstatic when Toronto score and when Toronto wins, that part of me doesn't want them to go through another disappointment. And then there's that part of me that really likes Tampa Bay and thinks, you know what, Tampa Bay is a really good team and they got really good players and they're playoff performers. And there's a lot of people in that organization that I like personally. Julien Brisebois is one, Matthew Darche is another, goalie coach Franz Jean is another, and the list goes on. And there's more. Alex Killorn, of course, from La Belle Province. Just talking about, of course, the connection. But, another part of me says that this is Toronto's year, and Kyle Dubas went out and he added 6 players like right before the deadline. Like he did everything he needed to do for this team. And that part of me wants to see them win. But at the same time, it would be funny if they lose. Eric, I'm torn. And I spoke with my cousin Rick yesterday, and he said, I've never gone through so many emotions as I have during this series. I said, Rick, I'm feeling the exact same way. Part of me wants Toronto to lose, part of me wants Toronto to win, but I would never admit that type of thing, even though I think I just did. Anyway, so I'm not the only one going through this. There's others too.
Yeah, I'm kind of completely emotionally divorced from all of it. It's been too long that I've been covering the NHL for me to really be pulling for anybody. I want to see the best possible story. Whether that's Toronto winning or Tampa quieting critics once again.
Yeah.
people that are counting them out, and people that are probably counting them out right now, seeing the way this game kind of evolved. But at the end of the day, like, I want to see this go 6 overtimes in a 7th game. Like,
yeah,
give me the best possible kind of storyline to follow, and I'm all in on that. Like, that to me is the fun of the playoffs and the fun of the first round. And like, it's not just this series. I've really enjoyed watching Minnesota Dallas, Vegas Winnipeg. New Jersey New York has probably been the dud for me. It's been the one that I'm not. I thought it would be much better hockey than what we've watched through 4 games, but still, like I don't. If I were to put on like a certain hat and look at it, if you're a Canadiens fan and you hate the Maple Leafs more than anybody, you should kind of want to see them go to Game 7 of the conference finals and then have the most devastating, heartbreaking loss possible. Like, I think that would be, funnier if you're a Canadiens fan than them failing again in the first round or whatever it is. Like, let the hope build up as much as possible and then have it snatched away. But honestly, like, personally, I think it would be tremendous to see Toronto run as far as they possibly can if they deserve to go. And like, I just think hockey's better with the Canadian teams, considering what the fan bases go through and how much it means to them, going as far as possible on their own merit. I don't want to see any team, doesn't matter who they play for or where they play, luck their way through. And when people said that Montreal got lucky in 2021, I really took exception to that. Like, I watched and analyzed every single one of those games, and they deserved to be where they ended up, and they deserved to lose in the end to Tampa Bay. They were the only team in the playoffs that played better team hockey than the Canadiens did that year, and they lost. But people who said, they got lucky to get there, and the Canadian division, and they're like, nobody played better team hockey than they did except for Tampa. So it's kind of the same thing. Whoever merits getting that far and getting in there, that's the story that you want to see develop. I think that's what makes it exciting.
All right, you talked about the Rangers. I'm pretty devastated because if the Rangers win the Cup this year, and they would need to win 14 more games for them to do that, by the way, and that's a lot, Tony Marinaro is going to make $1 or $2. So I'm definitely pulling for them, financially speaking. That I'll tell you, because at one point, about a month ago, I thought the odds were really, really good. So I jumped on them. And what a crazy series. The Rangers go to Jersey. They win the first 2 games on the road. And the Devils go to Madison Square Garden. They win the next 2 on the road. And this series is tied at 2. It's pretty crazy. The Devils win tonight by a score of 3-1. All right, let's talk about the Canadiens. Kent Hughes is at the Under-18 Worlds. And once again, he spoke with Brian Mudryk. And they talked about Lane Hutson. And they talked about the 2005 draft class, which are the players that will be drafted this year. And he just talked about, what an outstanding year that Lane had. And he talked about him growing. He said he grew, and he said he's a, dynamic offensive talent. Now, we know that he's going to return for one more year to his club. So my question to you is, when you look in your crystal ball, when do you see Lane Hutson joining the Montreal Canadiens?
I don't know. I really don't know. The fact is that I have not watched enough of Lane Hutson to be able to tell you that guaranteed by the end of next year he'll be ready to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
Do I think that's a probability? Yes. Do I know fully what role he'll be able to fill and what hole will be open and available to him as of the fall of 2024? It's like too early. Like, I think what he did this year was tremendous. And knowing that he's going back to school, I look forward to seeing how he builds on that, if he can build on it. Because if he does and he continues to fill out, then, logically you would be able to have a much better idea of what he projects as an NHL player. I have heard a lot of people kind of talk about him as there's no real comparable. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I and his skating would need to improve, but I mean, Quinn Hughes has been a pretty successful defenseman at his size in this NHL.
Yeah, you're right about that, of course.
Hutson does not skate like Hughes. Hutson is incredibly evasive and intelligent like Hughes, but his skating would have to come a long way to be on the same level.
Yeah, Hughes flies. Hughes flies.
And he'd have to be a smarter and more dynamic player than Hutson if that were to become true that he would compare. But I do think there is a precedent in terms of playing in the NHL on defense at that size. And I've always said, and I asked this question of Marty St. Louis at some point this year, defense, forward, different eras of hockey. But what made Marty St. Louis successful as a player, I mean, there's 100 things, but one of them was that he completely avoided getting blown up. Like there's not a lot of highlights over Marty St. Louis' long NHL career where he's on the other end of a devastating hit.
No, there aren't.
You think at that size, it would happen, right? Like, and I've always felt that there's one of two things you need at that size. You either need to be a genius on the ice, or you have to be extremely fast and elusive.
Mm-hmm.
He had both those things. Hutson is a genius on the ice in his own right. Quinn Hughes is a brilliant player who is extremely fast and elusive. So if Hutson can improve his skating a little bit, then we see that over the next year. I'd be willing to say, you know what?
Yeah.
This kid is going to be a top power play quarterback and have the potential to be, at the minimum, a top 4 defenseman, and at his peak, a number 2 or a number 1, depending on what role he fills within a top pairing.
Yeah, I read somewhere that he went from like 5'7" to like 5'9.5" in like 1 year or something or less. It's pretty remarkable. But then again, there are players like I know somebody who grew I don't know about 8 inches in a year. Some grow faster than others. You know what's pretty amazing, Eric? He led all players with 48 points with his Boston University team, and he's the youngest player on the team, and he's a defenseman. I mean, think of that, okay? That doesn't necessarily mean that this guy's going to be, the next big thing in the National Hockey League. But to lead your team in points as a defenseman and to be the youngest player on the team and to be the smallest player on the team, I mean, we're talking about a special talent here. The Canadiens the Canadiens also a couple of years prior to that, to him being drafted, I think 2 years before, had drafted Luke Tuck. Remember that? Drafted Luke Tuck. He's Alex Tuck's younger brother. They drafted him in the second round, 47th overall of the 2020 draft. Luke Tuck is 2 years older than Lane Hutson. Luke Tuck is a winger and not a defenseman. Luke Tuck finished 11th in points on the team. He finished 28 points behind Lane Hutson, 6 goals less, and 22 assists less. He's 2 years older. He's bigger. He's stronger. He's a winger, and he played a game more. And Hutson more than doubled him in point production.
Yeah, it says a lot about Hutson. If the idea is that it says something about Luke Tuck also.
Yeah.
He was not drafted to be an elite goal scorer.
No, he wasn't. You're right.
Like, and there are a lot of players like Luke Tuck who, as they physically mature and get into the NHL, if they're able to hone in on what their brand is, winning pucks and whatever it is, they become extremely valuable. And people might look at that statement and say, well, what do you mean by extremely valuable? Well, take a look at what Tanner Jeannot went to Tampa for, like what that trade was from Nashville. They become extremely valuable.
Yeah.
If Luke Tuck fulfills his promise, he'd be that type of player. I'm not suggesting that he will be, and I haven't seen enough of Luke Tuck to be able to tell you what he's going to be when the time comes. But I know what he's working on in terms of his development plan, and it's certainly not the same thing that you would get out of a Lane Hutson or anybody else who was drafted to produce points. So we'll see. It would have been nice if they drafted someone more like his brother in terms of if they wanted a sure thing. But the Canadiens could really use some size within their pipeline.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it'll be something they look at in this draft, as much as everybody wants them to draft the best players available. And I think this management team is very much committed to that. It's impossible not to look at their prospect pool and take a look at one of the gaps, and it is size. Lane Hutson, extremely promising. Sean Farrell, I know there's a lot of people that are going to judge him based on a 4 or 5
small sample size. Yeah, very small. Yeah.
Sean Farrell is an extremely dynamic, intelligent hockey player who can develop into a really, really good player if they play the cards right and if he does his part, because he has his part. He's got to be able to do it. Like, he can be a really good hockey player. But again, these are small guys we're talking about. Is Owen Beck overly large? Not really. He's not small. He's not small, but he's not. Slavkovsky is a very big player. That's one. If you look at their prospect pool on the whole, size is something they are missing.
Anthony Rodia invites you on his totally relatable tour. Buy your tickets now on Ticketmaster.ca, and you are guaranteed an evening full of stomach pains and tears of laughter. By the way, stomach pains in a good way, right? Not stomach pains in a bad way where you're going to spend the night in the bathroom. No, that's not going to happen. All right. Presented by Just for Laughs, and we will be announcing our giveaway winners on tomorrow's show. I very much look forward to that. All right. So also a shout out to my buddy Mario Ruffalo over at VPR Impex, by the way, VPRimpex.com. Vapore Ecological Dry Vapor Cleaning Technology from VPR Impex allows you to clean and disinfect surfaces faster and more efficiently without the need for harsh chemicals. We're just talking about water, and by the time it actually cleans it, it's dry. So you can steam your bed, and it's dry, and you can sleep on it. You can steam your windows, your fridge, your dishwasher, your floors, your walls, your anything, right? And not only for residential, by the way, for commercial, hospitals, old age homes, you name it. They're at 16641 Hymas Boulevard in Kirkland. Once again, it's VPRimpex.com. All right, okay. Caden Primo, we saw he was really amazing in the last week and a half of the Rockets' regular season to help propel them in the playoffs. I think it was his last regular season game. He just absolutely stood on his head and made over 40 saves. It was amazing. In the playoffs, he played very, very good hockey as well. But unfortunately, in the first round versus the Utica Comets, in what was a best of 3, Laval was swept 4-0. They lost game 1, and 2-1. They lost game 2. So they lost both games, and they're out. Caden Primo says, I'm ready to close out my AHL career. It was fun while it lasted. I'm ready for the show. I'm ready for the National Hockey League. To that, you say what?
I don't know. Like, I'd like to see a direct quote on that. Like, I'd like to see what he was asked and what he actually said.
Got it.
But if somebody's putting the question to him, like, do you think you're ready for the NHL? I would hope his answer would be yes.
Of course.
That's what you want guys to say.
Of course.
He's waiver eligible.
Yes, he is.
So he better be saying it because if he doesn't get his chance with the Canadiens at a camp, he would hope that somebody else is going to take a chance on him and he'll have an opportunity to play in the league. I don't think it's out of the question, and I would not suggest that the Canadiens would do this for an entire season.
Okay.
But if nothing changed in their net, if they didn't make an acquisition over the summer months for a goaltender, and if they didn't trade one out of town, I don't think it's out of the question that they would start the season with 3 guys on the roster. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider how many defensemen are in the running for a job with Montreal this season coming up.
Correct.
That would likely mean if they put 3 on the roster that they would have 12 forwards instead of 13. But it's better from an asset management perspective than losing somebody for no good reason. And it's a shitty thing the way it runs in terms of the waiver clock and college guys. And like Florida didn't want to lose Samuel Montembeault, and they did.
No. Yeah, they did. Well, let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this. See, based on everything we saw this year, it wasn't Jake Allen's best year. He's got the extension kicking in here, I think, at 3.875 or something like that. You think Jake Allen's tradable?
Yes. Is he tradable? Absolutely.
Okay.
Will he be traded? Not so sure. It really depends on what's available to the Canadiens, how they intend on addressing goaltending.
Yeah.
I will say one thing is certain. The Canadiens are looking for solutions in goal. As much as what they like of what they saw this year from Sam Montembeault, and they have every reason to like it, they're not hitching their entire wagon to him. Like they know that they're going to have to find a goaltender to either support Sam and play a 1B or 1A situation with him.
Yeah.
Or, and that's, I'm talking about in their general plan. I'm not talking about necessarily for next season, but the sooner the better for them. Like if they have an opportunity this summer to get a goaltender who is better than Montembeault, they will take that opportunity. I mean, and if they do, then they'll obviously have to make room for that goaltender. And I doubt it'll be by trading a player like Primo versus one like Allen. I mean, it's asset management. They're not dumb, these guys. They know what they're doing in that department. And if they do let Primo go, they've made their judgment on him and will take the risk on being wrong on it. There's a lot of goaltenders in this league that are just maturing at later ages, unfortunately.
Yes, that's true.
The system is set up as such that you really are prone to losing them by the time you have to give them a chance. Like, that's just the way it is. And that's how the Canadiens ended up with Sam Montembeault.
By the time the Canadiens become a contender, and by the way, that can happen, they win the draft and they get Connor Bedard, they might, be knocking on the door for a playoff spot next year. They might make the playoffs. But let's just say the Canadiens end up drafting 5th, 6th, or 7th, okay? By the time they become a contender, will Jake Allen be on this team?
No.
Then you should try and trade him and keep Primo. And now Primo might not be on this team by the time they become a contender either, because the fact of the matter, he just might not be good enough, okay? But, if you
let's put it another way. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. Please ask me the question.
You asked the right question. Asked the right question. I'm going to ask you the same question.
Yes.
Will the Canadiens be a contender with Jake Allen still on the team? Like, will they hit that within his contract frame? Is your answer also no?
They'll be a playoff team, I believe. In 2 years from now. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs next year. I do believe they're going to make the playoffs the year after. If you want to look at it with Marc Bergevin's
but not a cup contender.
Well, Bergevin will tell you get the playoffs and anything can happen. I'll tell you that I don't think they would be, and I would think they would be still too young and too inexperienced at that point.
Okay. So then there's no real urgency to address the hole they have in net unless they find someone who absolutely does address it within the window they're looking to enter. That helps them now and in the future.
Oh, the Lightning are going to take a penalty here in overtime.
Yeah, I see it. So there's no
Sergachev.
So there's no urgency, right? Like there's no urgency to solve the problem if you know that you're at least 2 years out from contending.
But I'll come back with another question again. Okay, if you trade Allen, do you think you're going to end up regretting anything going forward? Now, if you let Primo walk, do you think it could come back to bite you? And look, most people right now that are watching on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Twitter Live, based on the sample size, based on what they've seen from Primo at the National Hockey League level, are not betting on him. And I understand that. But I'm still going to ask the question, is there a risk that you might regret having Primo walk? And I think that risk is there because he's still young. He's 100%. Big. He's big. The family genes are there. And like you pointed out before, rightfully so, goalies develop at later ages. So that risk is there. I don't think you're going to regret anything if you trade Allen. You can regret letting Primo walk.
There are a lot of people who I've spoken to within the organization who really like Primo and still absolutely believe in him. And for every fan that's out there that doesn't, they're the same people that said that when Sam Montembeault came to the Canadiens, he was not an NHL goaltender.
Yeah.
And also the same people that were lobbying to become anointed the number one after 5 good games this year. Like,
yeah,
this is the nature of the position. Players develop later, and they tend to surprise you in terms of what their ability is. And there was a point in time when Caden Primo was on the verge of signing with the Canadiens, where Canadiens fans were desperate for that signing to happen and happen as quickly as possible. And that potential is still in there, especially at 23 years old. So if you're asking me if the Canadiens have the potential of regretting letting him go for nothing or losing him, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to be ahead of you here, but
they scored.
The Toronto Maple Leafs are up 3-1 in this series.
Wow, look at that. Look at that. You are ahead of me, and here we go.
Was Calle Yonkrook, maybe? I didn't see who scored it.
Giordano shoots, deflected in front. There we go.
Was it Nyes?
Is it I'm not sure. In Toronto, they're going nuts. I think Tampa Bay was calling for a high stick there and stuff like that. That's not a high stick. No.
I don't know. The Lightning are not moving.
The Lightning are not moving. Well, the coaches are going to take a look at this,
right?
It
looks like Kerfoot scored it. Yeah.
Yeah. The coaches are going to take a look at this.
Oh, my gosh. If this is called back.
It won't be called back. I don't see that as a high stick. I don't see that as a high stick.
It's going to be a close call, but I agree it's probably going to count.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but I take a look at Stamkos' face, and I think Tampa Bay, the players know that. Let's take a look at this replay. Wow. There we go. Kerfoot's in front. Ooh. That's a good
goal.
Those are quick hands, though, eh?
That's going to be a good goal, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good goal.
I'd be shocked if that was called back.
Yeah.
It's under the bar. It's way under the bar.
That is...
Wow. I don't know if I agree that Toronto's going to win.
That's a good goal. It's not even close. It's not even close to being high stick. That's a good goal.
I don't know if I agree that Toronto's going to win this series in 5 games.
It's over.
But I do believe they're going to win it, even if it goes to 7.
Yeah.
I believe they're going to win it.
Yeah.
Different Leafs team this year.
Different Leafs team. Kyle Dubas and Jason Spezza. There they are. Yeah. All right. Could you Dubas? I mean, we saw the video last game of him heckling a fan and going back, and a couple of F-bombs were thrown and stuff like that. I don't want to excuse him because there's no way he should have done that. But on another note, could you imagine the pressure on Kyle Dubas this year for his team to pass the first round? It's got to be like unbelievable. Like the pressure's got to be incredible.
He doesn't have a contract.
Yeah. The margin of victory, though, in this series, I mean, 3-1 one way, it could easily be 3-1 the other way. That's just the way it is, and that's why playoff hockey is absolutely amazing.
Logically, I know what you meant. Like, you bet on Toronto to win in 5 now?
Yeah.
What's the Lightning's record in elimination games over the last 3 years?
This is not the same Lightning, Eric. They're tired, man. Like
yeah,
I really believe.
You just finished saying the margin for error in the series.
Yeah, but
they were the better team over the last 2 games and ended up losing.
They were. I just think to avoid elimination, right? You're going to have 2 very hungry teams. You're going to have one team that's going to be very hungry to close it, another team that's going to be very hungry to avoid it. And Tampa, in 3 years of going to the final, it's like they played 4 playoff years. And I think Toronto's will in Game 5 will be stronger than Tampa's.
You're speaking logically. It's all logic.
This is not the same. This is not the same Andrei Vasilevsky. I'm sorry, but this season he was very, very average. And thus far in the playoffs, he's been average at best.
Well, I'm pretty sure Brian Elliott's not starting Game 5.
Well, I can guarantee you that he's not. But I mean, if Vasilevsky was at his best, I can tell you that, you know what, he can go into Toronto and steal the game. I don't think Vasilevsky can steal a game versus Toronto right now.
Listen, it's everything you're saying is logical. Add in the fact that Hedman's playing at probably 60% of his capacity, maybe less. And Chernak was a huge loss. Like huge, huge, huge loss.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I would not bet against Tampa in the next game, but I would bet against them in this series at this point. I think it's done. I think Toronto will win this series.
I hope so, because
but I would not bet on Tampa making it a series. I would not bet against that. I would not bet against that.
We have a loyal viewer, Raymond Singh, real estate guru. Singh, sign, sold. When the series was tied at 1, he told me that Tampa Bay would win it. And I said, no, this is Toronto's year. And he said lunch. I said yes. He said 40 West. I said yes. To Raymond Singh, sign, sold. Make that filet mignon, please. And don't tell anyone this. And I know that I'm going to regret saying this because people are going to be able to go back and watch it. But I like mine well done. Butterfly.
Filet mignon?
Don't tell anybody. I said it already.
I think that's my time to exit here.
Oh, my God. Eric, thank you so much for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Be well, Tony.
All right. Take care. There you have it. Eric Engels of Sportsnet at sportsnet.ca. There's something that I wanted to get to, which was an ideal line mate for Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. But you know what? I'm going to get to that maybe in the next day or two. But first and foremost, I'm going to bring in my buddy Chris.
Sick Sports Cards. Presented by Sports La Tornade.
Yeah, Sick Sports Cards is presented by Sport La Tornade. Sports cards, collectibles, and more. Visit the store at 1 Avenue de la Fabrique in Vaudreuil-Dorion. All right. What's going on, my man?
Not much. I just was watching you guys. I couldn't I'd see the game, but I heard that the Leafs pulled one off.
They definitely did. Yes, they definitely did. And, you know, isn't this something when you think about it, right? Because, you know, I think the curse is officially over. You remember when Toronto was up by a score of 4-1 versus the Boston Bruins with, less than 10 minutes to go in period number 3, right?
Yep.
Well, what happened? The Bruins came back and they won that game by a score of 5-4 in overtime. Years later, it's Toronto that's down 4-1, and they come back and they beat Tampa Bay 5-4 in overtime. The curse of the Maple Leafs is officially a thing of the past. They've broken the curse. This is the year of the Leafs.
So let me tell you a little bit about that Boston, that series with Boston. I was at a Motley Crue concert in Montreal the night that happened. And when it was 4-1 Toronto, I remember looking at my buddies and saying, I'm betting Boston on this game. They were down, and I bet Boston to come back. I don't want to contradict what you're saying. I don't want to contradict what Eric is saying. The minute we get off this podcast, I'm going looking for the line, and I'm picking Tampa Bay to win this series.
I'll give you better odds than you'll find on the line.
I'm on. I don't see it.
All right. No, I'm just saying, like, I'll take that bet. Toronto's not blowing this one.
Tampa's the best team, the better team on paper. They got the experience, and Toronto's got the history.
Yeah,
I gotta go. I gotta keep on going.
Hedman's banged up.
He is.
Cernak's out. Bunting's coming back, and Braden Point's banged up. And Andre Vasilevsky is a shadow. He's nowhere near the goalie that he used to be.
Well, he's proven different in all elimination games, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, you know what? A lot of people are saying don't bet against Toronto. No, I'm calling it. Don't bet against Tampa. I'm calling it. Toronto 5, man. It's over, man. It's over. All right, okay. I know you talked about a Motley Crue concert, but I got a funny story for you.
Yeah.
You remember the former public address announcer for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Yes, I forget his name, but I have his face. Yeah.
Paul Morris.
Yes.
Paul Morris is his name. All right. And Paul Morris he's the guy that used to sound something like this, right? Maple Leafs goal scored by number 21, Boria Salming, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
Right? That's the way he's thought. Yeah. So Paul Morris at one point announced a concert that was going to take place at the Maple Leaf Gardens, right? So of course he's reading off a script, right? And he announced, guess who was going to be playing in Toronto? Guess which concert?
Motley Crue.
22 Top. Obviously ZZ Top, and he read it wrong, and he said 22 Top. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. That's one for the ages. Hey, so you were in what? You were in Toronto at the card show, as was like everybody else, like anybody who was anybody was in Toronto?
Anybody that collects sports cards should have been in Toronto this weekend. It was Thursday to Sunday, wall-to-wall action, just everything, you name it, from cards to memorabilia to any kind of collectibles you could possibly find, wrestling, hockey,
wrestling
everything.
Too, really? Wow.
Everything. Yeah, wrestling, UFC. I saw a guy, he bought a...
Pardon me. Do wrestling cards have value? Like if...
a lot of value.
Really?
I saw a guy this year with a signature, an auto card of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay.
Card was going over like $6,000.
Emositumo.
Yeah, Undertaker, the Ultimate Warrior. These guys, like, I'm telling you, they're
wow.
Yeah, wrestling cards.
Now, what is, I think Mickey Mantle's card is the most valuable card in the world. Is that right? I think I saw that on TV or on social media somewhere. I think the gentleman who bought it for $120 or something, and now it's worth $25 million. Is that right?
That's right. That guy's the guy's famous.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what a smart businessman he is. Yeah. It's time to sell, though, bud. It's time to sell it. $25 million. Sell it now.
Yeah.
You still got to find the buyer, though, right?
Exactly. Like I said last show, the more your card is worth, the less amount of people you have to buy. So, it depends what league you want to play in. So, if you got that kind of card, you have a select few that can actually buy it. Some people will actually buy it as a group. People own it as a group. You can buy. There's actually a app out there for sports called sports. It's called Liquid Collection or Liquid. And you can buy in on a sports card with other people. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can invest on like a stock.
Oh, isn't that something? All right, okay.
Yeah.
Now, wrestling cards. Is it safe to say that a Hulk Hogan card is probably the most valuable card that's out there, or is there other cards?
You know what? I'm not the professional on wrestling
cards.
I got
it, and I respect that. Yeah, that's okay. I don't expect you to be.
I would guess that yes, it probably would be though, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And if it's not, someone's going to tell us, because I'm sure that there's somebody watching that probably knows a lot about wrestling cards.
Yeah. And so we had some viewers that I ran into at the sports card show.
Really? Yeah. Did they give you their names or?
They did not give me their names. They shook my hand and thanked me for what we do on the show. They liked the sports card show that we do, and they were there shopping. They recognized me and said to say hi to you. So
pretty good. You see, we made you famous on the show, Chris.
Yeah, they recognized me. It was good.
That's going to cost you another $2,000 per month, Chris. All right, okay. All kidding aside, why should a card collector go to a show like that one that took place in Toronto on the weekend?
So, a lot of people like to the people that are in the sports cards just love to eat up all the information and talk about sports cards and talk and geek it out or whatever you want to call it with other sports cards members. And the place to go is in a card show like this. So you can go to all these different booths and you can network, and you're meeting people from Calgary and you're meeting people from Nevada and Vegas and all over California, all over the States that come to the Toronto Card Show. And you're going to see the guys from the States. You're going to be interested more into their baseball cards, and they're going to want to know about your hockey cards, and they're going to want to know your opinion on what they should buy in hockey cards. And you're going to get their knowledge on football and baseball and basketball.
Wow.
So you can share.
If I was you, I would buy hockey cards from them.
Absolutely.
You're going to take them to the cleaners. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, I went to the show in California. I was in LA this year, and I would say that only about 5% of the show was hockey. All the rest was baseball, basketball, football.
Kind of sounds like the hockey ratings in the States, less than 5%.
Yeah. So it is what it is. But like, just the networking that you can do there. A lot of people like to sell their cards online in different groups. A lot of people like to consign their cards to different people that sell online. eBay is a big seller. They're at the eBay is at the show, and all the other consignment guys are there.
Oh yeah.
Upper Deck is there. So if you want to go there, Upper Deck is giving out free packs and free stuff. They're promoting a big time over there. They have a big booth. All the grading companies are there. So if you want to get a card graded, you bring it in, and they're doing on-site submissions, or some of them are doing even
evaluations,
on-site evaluations, on-site grading.
Yeah.
So you pay a little extra, but you leave your card, come back 2-3 hours later, and your card is graded.
Yeah.
So these are all advantages, big advantages for sports card collectors.
Hey, Chris, knowing how big college sports is in the States, I would imagine a lot of these stores in the States, they're probably heavy on these college cards. They
are, and college cards are. We don't notice it as much here, but in the States, they're big, and they have cards. You know, they have. There's every year there's a Prism draft, they call it. They have the Prism draft picks. So I remember opening up. I got a nice Trevor Lawrence one time out of a Prism draft. It was, he was with Clemson at the time. Yeah. In his uniform, some of the Mac Jones stuff, some of the Herbert, all of them, but they're actually in their university, in their college gear. So that is cool. Big in the States. Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of these cards, I was wondering. I saw Alex Kovalev. He was signing some cards and stuff. Who was the biggest name that was there signing cards?
The biggest name that was there, I want to say, from our era now, would have been Zdeno Chara.
Oh, okay.
So that's the big Z. Big, yeah, he was there. Yeah. Kovalev. I saw Chelios. I saw Bruce Boudreau. Speaking of wrestling, Kurt Angle was there. There was some other. Mano Riom was there.
Yeah.
But I think Zdeno Chara was like the biggest one. Last year was
did you have an eye on Kovalev by any chance? Like, were you close to him? I'm wondering, was he? Was he pacing himself, like just not going 100%, or
he was? Yeah, no. I went and checked it out. I saw where he was signing autographs, and there's quite a few people in the line. He looks old. But
he looks old.
Oh yeah. I went by and I almost didn't recognize him. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but it's okay. So I picked up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to show you a card that I picked up there. I brought it back to Montreal because
you find I look younger, or look at my face is thinner now than it has been in like 6 or 7 years. By the way,
it is. You're glowing. You're
23 pounds in the last 28 days. Thank you very much.
That's great.
Well, it's good. Great is actually being able to keep it off. That's great. All right. Okay. Show me what you picked up.
So there's a guy from Alberta there. His name is Jeremy Lee. I talk to him all the time. And I went by his booth. He does a show kind of like ours, but out in Alberta. And
ours is better.
Yeah, ours is better for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
He had this card and it was sitting on his booth and I had to get it because it doesn't belong in Alberta. It belongs in Montreal. So
Carey Price. Wow.
I don't know how close you can see there.
Well, what do you want me to look at?
I want you to look here.
1 of 1?
That's a NHL shield they call. So it's that's from his jersey, the NHL off his jersey, the little patch there. It's called an NHL shield, 1 of 1. Rookie year, Carey Price rookie year.
How much did you pick that up for?
I picked it up for $3,000.
You picked it up for $3,000.
I picked it up for $3,000, and he threw me in 2 of the pretty popular jambalaya Carey Prices. So I got 2 of these thrown in there.
And you picked it up obviously because you live in Montreal, and that card is going to hold its most value here in Montreal.
Oh, that card's at least, I think that card's worth $5,000. It's a 1 of 1. I'll decide.
Wow.
So, and now it's in Montreal. It's where it should be.
Wow.
Montreal card show's coming up 11, 12, 13th of May.
You're going to sell that card that weekend.
I'm going to try. So, and so there's some things there that
So how does this work in terms of so you're going to put a price tag on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you say, make me an offer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't have to put a price tag on it. You say, make me an offer.
Yeah.
So you don't put a price tag on it. Somebody comes up to you and says, I'll give you 8 Gs.
Perfect.
And you're going to say sold.
Yeah.
And you just made 5 Gs.
Yeah. These shows are made for that.
This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do. Don't tell anybody what we're going to do, though. You and I'm going to bring you buyers. We're going to go 50-50. Okay. So you bought it for $3,000. I'm going to bring somebody for $8,000.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do $2,500 each profit.
Sounds good. Perfect.
You see, why? You've been on for about a year. Why did it take this long to negotiate a deal with you? I mean, you and we need to establish a partnership here. I mean, what's going on here?
I'm not hard to work with. It's pretty
neither
easy.
am I.
It's so once you study the market and you know your prices, there's a lot of stuff. Let's see here. Here I got Young Guns, Connor McDavid. Young Guns, Connor McDavid. Probably one of. Yeah, I wasn't going to buy these cards. These cards are not. Those cards are not on my radar. But I went by someone's table, and I know that those PSA 9s are $2,000 all day, every day. And the guy, he put a sticker on them for $1,425. So I said, okay, well, how about we do $2,800 for 2 of them, $1,400 each. And the guy said, I'll do that. I didn't expect to buy that.
I can have them sold for you tomorrow.
I know. So can I. Tomorrow, the store was closed today, but tomorrow I'm back to work.
Yeah.
And someone's going to want who doesn't want McDavid? I mean,
put those on hold, actually. Okay. Yeah. Do this.
Yeah.
Give me 30 minutes tonight.
Okay.
To connect you with somebody.
Okay.
Yeah. I know somebody that just, whatever exists from Connor McDavid, he'll buy. Like if Connor McDavid walks into a store and buys himself a soft drink and then, throws that bottle in the garbage, this person will go into the garbage and pick up that bottle.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So if in case he asks, these are PSA 9s.
So, but what they're PSA 9s of what year exactly? What are they?
2000. They're rookie year, 15-16, 2015-16. It's a Connor McDavid Young Guns.
This is his rookie card?
Yeah.
Connor McDavid rookie card.
Yeah. 2015-16.
What are you asking for?
Well, I think they're worth 2,000.
You think
if he wants both, he can make me an offer.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, 2 cards, 2,000. If he wants both, he can probably get them, maybe let's just say 37, 38. I'm going to see if he can give you $15,000, and you and I were going on vacation this summer.
Perfect. We got a few more.
No, he's a very good friend of mine. I'm sure he's going to be very much interested. That's Nick Suzuki, yeah?
Yeah, that's Nick Suzuki Young Guns there. Canvas.
Okay.
That's a PSA 10.
So
pick that up.
So, when we're talking Young Guns, does that necessarily translate to a rookie card? Excuse my ignorance? Or?
Yeah. Young Guns is a rookie card.
Okay.
Yeah, every year.
What are you selling that one for?
That one I'm going to say around $250.
That's a PSA 10?
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Those that are watching tonight via YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, man, they got a much better idea of the cards that that you were able to pick up at this store at this Toronto Sports Cards Expo. Man, there's some good stuff that you picked up there.
You pick up anything. I sometimes I look. So those the ones I sold. I told you there. McDavid, I wasn't looking for. Suzuki, I wasn't looking for. The guys that I were looking, I was, of course, I collect Tiger Woods and Acuna. Here's my 2 Acuna pickups. Very nice. These are going in my personal collection, so those won't be for sale.
Wow.
I got the Carey Price.
Wow.
You'll laugh because the very first booth I went to, I found an underpriced card at the time on Thursday night, and already the market has crashed on this guy.
Who are we talking about?
Stuart Skinner.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's a Young Guns PSA 10. I saw it on Thursday night. It was Edmonton was up.
So what's that card going for right now?
Probably 120, 140.
After last night's performance, more like pesos instead of dollars.
More like.
We're going to end it with this. I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers goes from Green Bay to the New York Jets. Does his card go down today?
Yes.
It goes down today. Wow.
Yeah. The Packers have quite a good market.
Okay.
And I don't imagine the Jets are going to do great. We'll see, but so that's
great stuff. Go by, check out Chris at Sports Cards La Tornade. Of course, collectibles and more at 1 Avenue de la Fabrique in Vaudreuil-Dorion. Chris, thanks for everything tonight. I thought you were fantastic tonight. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Tony.
All right. Thank you very much. Special thanks once again to La Bittt Tibi, Le Groupe Geloso, who distributes the beer, and Energy Transportation Group for all of their support. And thank you to all of you as well. For all of you watching on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Twitter Live, like it, share it with your friends. Comment SICK, S-I-C-K, so we can feel the love. And if you're going to listen on Google, Apple, or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. It really is our way of knowing that you love the podcast, and I know we love doing it. For Agnello and Sammy and Master Control, they're Cavallaro. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. La Vida TB. Embrace your true nature.